Good morning, or depending on when you're listening to this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and I was always told I had a voice for radio, so I've made a podcast all about the Pokémon trading card game, and you're listening to PTCG Radio. Now, we have an awful lot to talk about this week, so I'm going to get going nice and quickly. We've got a huge amount of news going on. I'm going to tell you all about my Nationals experience, and then I'm going to tell you about the top 8 of UK Nationals, what decks did well, and what we can learn, what we can going forward with this. And of course, we've got the very big news of the week, for which I've already done a YouTube video. I knocked one of them out nice and quickly yesterday about that. So something that you might, if you haven't already, I say might, should go and check out about that. So, starting off then, we've got a bunch of news, and there really is quite a lot of news since last week. So what I've done is I've gone to split it into two halves. So first, we're going to start with news that does not relate to new cards, or indeed Lysandre's trump card. So starting off, Japan has announced their X and Y 8 set. This is the set. Now we've got Bandit Ring, which is the Hoopla Unbound whatever. That's going to be that's coming out in Japan this month. I believe June the 20th it comes out in Japan. And then that's going to be our August set. So this is our November set, which has been revealed in Japan. And it's going to be coming out in September. And it displayed the words Break Evolution. Now, we don't know what that means. It could be the theme of the set, or it could indeed be a new mechanic altogether. We just don't know. Now, one thing which is, of course, very interesting about this particular news is that evolutions are becoming less and less important as the EXs really quite kind of dominate and take over the format. So the fact that we might be having some evolution help in our November set is kind of interesting. And of course, it's our November set. So it's a little way away yet. Don't get too excited, but something to think about. Another thing which we shouldn't read too much into, but is kind of interesting, the Japan's official Pokémon Twitter account has tweeted out the results of the 2 Rayquaza Mega Battle tournaments. Now, Japan does run in black and white on, basically the equivalent of our extended format. So do bear that in mind with these results. But in one tournament, I should say, the top 4 decks were from 4th to 1st, Mega Manectric Suicune, Landorus Crobat, Donphan Robosub, which makes me very happy, and Seismitoad Musharna. Seismitoad still going in extended in Japan. The other one from 4th to 1st went Seismitoad Crobat, Seismitoad Musharna, Yveltal Darkrai, and Primal Groudon Wobbuffet. Nothing particularly exciting there, nothing we haven't seen ourselves. Yveltal, of course, much better in expanded than it is in the current format. Primal Groudon's still a beast, and Seismitoad EX, we all know how good that is. The one interesting thing is Seismitoad Musharna. Seismitoad Musharna is essentially a slightly superior version of Seismitoad Slurpuff. Now, it's not quite the same ability. Slurpuff allows you to draw a card. Musharna allows you to look at the top 2 cards of your deck and essentially take one of them. So the big negative over Slurpuff is that a couple of times a game you're going to have Slurpuff in the active, and if you get Slurpuff in the active, then you get the opportunity to draw 2 cards rather than 1. Although you still get to choose from the 2 top cards of Musharna, so it's still not a huge advantage. It's a good advantage, but it's not as big as it might seem. Because unless you really want both of those cards, if you really need one of them, you can get it with Musharna and you get it with Slurpuff. But there's 2 really big advantages Musharna has over Slurpuff. Number 1 is, as I said, you get to look at the top 2 cards and choose one rather than just draw the top card. If you're desperate for that DCE, Musharna gives you a better chance of getting it than Slurpuff. Essentially, you get to dig 1 card deeper. So if you got 1 Slurpuff out, you get to get 1 card. 1 Musharna out, you get to look at 2. If there's 4 Slurpuff out, you get to draw 4 cards. But if there's 4 Musharna out, you get to still draw 4 cards, but you get to dig 5 cards deep. The other big advantage is it's a Psychic type, and if you'll remember, the winner of one of those tournaments was Primal Groudon Wobbuffet. Wobbuffet turns off the abilities of all Pokemon other than Psychic, so Slurpuff will be turned off by Wobbuffet, whereas Musharna will not. So, in Expanded, Musharna very much a better advantage, a better option. And actually, one other advantage I didn't say, it evolves from Munna. Now, Swirlix is essentially garbage. Mana has long distance hypnosis, whereby you flip a coin, heads your opponent's active as asleep, tails you are. Now, it carries a risk with it, but let's say, for instance, in a Seismitoad mirror, if you've got no energy attached and you're not going to be able to Quaking Punch anyway, then you can go ahead and try and put your opponent asleep. Worst case scenario, you still don't get to attack. Best case scenario, neither do they. In terms of the promos for the Ancient Origins blisters, we are going to be getting a Salamence, which isn't particularly good, and we are going to be getting the Malamar. Now, the Salamence has got Delta Evolution. We have talked about this before. They came out in Japan as promos a little while ago, so we have mentioned them on the pod before, but I don't expect you all to remember everything I've ever talked about on the pod. That would be silly. Salamence has Delta Evolution, and it's got 2 attacks. 130 damage plus discard the top card of your deck for 4 energy. Meh. And summon minions. Search your deck for up to 3 basic Pokemon and put them onto your bench, which will be all for 1 energy. Awesome in a basic. Actually, not even that great because it's got a retreat cost of 2. It's not good in a stage 2, even with Delta Evolution. If you really want to play Salamence, play the new one from Roaring Skies. It's better. Now, we've also got Malamar coming out. Now, that's got the new Ancient trait, which we haven't seen yet in the UK. Remember, Ancient traits are evolving. We're getting new ones as the sets go along. It's got the Ancient trait Omega Stop. Prevent any effects of your opponent's abilities done to this Pokemon. So, for instance, Crawdaught can't discard energy, Genesect can't drag it into the active with Red Signal, and so on. Now, it's got an ability, as long as this Pokemon is your active, during your opponent's next turn, treat all coins he or she flips as tails. Now, the attack does 40 damage for a dark and a double colourless, and if you can match hand sizes with your opponent, you've got 4, they've got 4, etc., then you add confusion as well. It's got a fun little ability, but it only operates when it's active, so it's not amazing. Now, going into new cards, these are a bunch of cards that have been revealed from Bandit Ring, and some of them, quite frankly, we're going to need to sit and have a look at. One of them, in fact, is going to inspire its very own podcast, kind of like Mega Turbo did. Maybe next week, maybe the week after. So, Golurk has got Omega Stop, so Pokemon's abilities don't hurt it. It's got an ability, Double Type, which means it's both Psychic and Fighting, which is really good because, of course, you get to hit for double the weaknesses. Manectric's looking like it might be good going forward, and Golurk is going to be good against Manectric. Now, it's got 1 attack for 4 colourless energy. This makes it splashable. Now, Golurk is a stage 1, remember, and this Pokemon is going to be splashable. You can put 2 DCE on it, or you can, use it in a metal deck with Bronzong, etc. It does 80 damage, or 120 and 20 to yourself. Now, that's key, because 120 doubles to 240. And that's enough to knock out any Mega EX. So essentially, Fighting or Psychic Weak Mega EXs, it's a stage 1 for 4 energy, so it's expensive and a little bit slow, but it gives type coverage. Now, one card which we are not going to be able to get into in any way, shape or form, obviously in some way, shape or form, but in anywhere near as much detail as we want, is Giant Plant Forest. It's broken time space for grass Pokemon. Each player's grass Pokemon can evolve during the first turn and on the turn they were put into play. Essentially, grass Pokemon can evolve whenever the hell you like it. Now, people have been going through some obvious candidates here. We like the fact that we can go for something like Mega Venusaur on the first turn of the game. Now, you still have to end your turn because there's still no Spirit Link, but it will speed it up ever so slightly. For my money, still not enough to make it viable. What we're going to do is we're going to have a podcast, maybe next week if I've not got much else to talk about, maybe the week after or the week after, but certainly within the next kind of 2 or 3 weeks, I'm going to have a podcast where I look at all of the grass evolution Pokemon from XY onwards. I'll tell you why in a minute. And we're going to be looking at which ones are going to best make use of this. It also potentially spells the end for Seismitoad, but as we're going to talk about with Lysandre's trump card and with podcasts about the rotation soon, Seismitoad, he's losing a lot of his tricks. He's losing, well, in the rotation, he's probably losing Laser. He's probably losing Garbodor. And losing Lysandre's trump card means no crazy amounts of Crushing Hammer and Super Scoop Up per turn. So, I don't know if we're going to need a Seismitoad counter by then, but Groudon's also weak to grass. So, hello, Groudon counters. Now, coming out very, very soon, we are going to be having the Hoenn Power Tins. Now, we've already talked about Salamence EX and Blaziken EX. Neither of them were very good. We finally got an image of Sceptile EX, because some of these are starting to be sold in stores already, which is weird, because they're not supposed to be out for another, 2 weeks. It's 170 HP, that's expected. Weakness to fire, that's expected. It's got an attack, which I quite like. Agility, for 20 damage, 1 grass energy. Flip a coin. If heads, prevent all effective attacks, including damage, done to this Pokemon during your opponent's next turn. And let's not forget, ladies and gentlemen, that Fliptini is still around for a little while longer. And Fliptini means that you've got a 75% chance of immunity on the following turn. It's only 20 damage, but Muscle Band Laser, it can start to build up quite quickly. One other thing that must be borne in mind here is the fact that if Sceptile goes out of the active, he's a different Pokemon, essentially. So any Lysandre, Pokemon Catcher, etc. can get around this, but that's still pretty good. And remember, of course, and this comes up quite a bit, so I do like to give reminders when it's appropriate. Seismitoad's Trainer Lock does not happen to the Pokemon, it happens to the player. So Sceptile EX will not stop Seismitoad's Trainer Lock, but it will stop all kinds of damage, except for, obviously, things like Hypnotoxic Laser, which come around from trainers. So, yeah, I quite like that. It's got 130 for free grass energy, can't be used next turn. Well, that's just garbage, because Genesect does 120 for free energy, but can use Colress Machine as acceleration, and does 20 to the bench, and you can use it during your next turn. Sceptile EX is only good for that first attack, but, as a blocker in some decks, maybe even as a blocker for Verizia and Genesect, combine it with Scramble Switch or Energy Switch or something like that, could be quite funky. I don't think it's great, just so we're clear, but I do think there is a little bit of mileage in it. Speaking of Sceptile EX, we've got a Sceptile EX coming in Bandit Ring, and we've got a Mega, and of course, because it's a Mega EX that comes out in a set, we've got a Spirit Link. I have seen a bit of discussion on the old Facebook groups and all recently talking about why can't we have a universal Spirit Link, and I agree, that would be awesome. Pokemon have made it very clear, for those who have missed a couple of podcasts or whatever, Pokemon have made it very clear that now any Mega EX that comes out in a set is going to get a Spirit Link. But any promos, think Absol, think Diancie, think Metagross, or any that came out in sets before Spirit Links, think Mega Venusaur, etc., they ain't getting Spirit Links, so gutted. So let's have a look at this new Sceptile EX. It's got 2 attacks, again, 1 retreat, weakness to fire, 170 HP. For a grass, Sleep Poison, 10 damage, flip a coin. If heads, your opponent's active is now asleep and poisoned. Likely to not have Burbank City Gym when this comes out. So, yeah, it's not great. It's kind of like hitting heads on a laser without Burbank. I would rather have the other Sceptile for the immunity and the 10 more damage. But the second attack certainly wins. Grass and a colourless, Assassin Claw, 60 damage. If your opponent's active is affected by a special condition, this attack does 70 more damage. Now we're talking. 130 for 2 energy, that's pretty good. Now, Mega Sceptile EX becomes very interesting because let's not forget, ladies and gentlemen, that we are getting the exact same. We're getting that, what's it called? The broken time space for grass. We are getting it in the same set as Sceptile, which means you've got the Spirit Link, you've got that, you can get him going on the first turn of the game. Now, he attacks for 2 energy, but he's a Mega, so you can use Mega Turbo. So this is a potential turn 1 Pokemon. It's got a Mega Stop, prevent all effects of your opponent's abilities done to this Pokemon, like we've been talking about. And it has, for a grass and a colourless, Jagged Saber. 100 damage. Meh. You may attach up to 2 grass energy from your hand to your bench Pokemon in any way you like. That is really good. Think Terrakion EX, but cheaper. Oh, and if you do, remove all damage from each Pokemon you attach them to. You can not only attach 2 extra grass energy, but you can completely heal 2 Pokemon while doing 100 damage for just 2 energy. And if you take off that Spirit Link Tool Retriever and add on a Muscle Band, you're doing enough damage to one-hit KO a Groudon for 2 energy. And they're going to have 4, including a Strong, to one-hit KO you back. Mega Sceptile is a fantastic Mega Groudon counter. And let's not forget, ladies and gentlemen, that Mega Sceptile attacks for 2 energy, can completely heal 2 of your Pokemon every turn, and accelerate energy, or while accelerating energy even. The only downside of this is, it only does 100 damage. But 100 for 2 is pretty damn efficient. So, you've got that Broken Time Space card, and you've got the Spirit Link, and you've got Mega Turbo, 100 damage, plus healing, plus energy acceleration, potentially on your first turn of the game. As long as you're going second and can attack. That is crazy. Want some more cool grass stuff? How about a Stage 1 Ariados? Now the attack's garbage, and it's only got 70 HP. But the ability, Poison Nest. Once during your turn you may use this ability, both active Pokemon are now poisoned, excluding grass Pokemon. Remember how I said the regular EX Sceptile can do 130 damage for 2 energy if they're affected by a special condition? Yeah. Ariados allows you to just magically poison them. So let me make it clear, ladies and gentlemen, that, quite frankly, that's good. I still prefer the Mega to the regular EX, but yeah, the Hone Powhatan, Sceptile, Swampert, Blaziken, they all suck. But there's a really good Sceptile coming in Bandit Ring. I like the EX, the Mega more than the regular EX, but I like them both. Couple more cards we've got. Lucky Helmet, a trainer card, a tool, and when it's attached, if you're damaged by an opponent's attack, draw 2 cards. And let's not forget that your opponent is going to attack at the end of their turn, which means you get to draw the 2 cards coming into your turn. That's pretty cool. I don't know if it's going to take the place of Muscle Band or Hard Charm or any of those kind of cards, but I think it's pretty good. Now, there's also an Entei, and this gives us another new ancient trait, Omega Double. This Pokemon can have 2 Pokemon tools attached to it. Now, it's not as good as a Sigilyph that can take 4 Pokemon tools, but it's a pretty good start. As a nice little side note, let's imagine for a second that you attach 2 Lucky Helmet. That means your opponent attacks you, and there's nothing to suggest Lucky Helmet doesn't stack. Your opponent attacks you, and you get to draw 4 extra cards going into your turn. That's going to make a nice consistent deck. Although you could unintentionally deck out because, well, and again, as I always say, these cards are their current Japanese translations. I use Pokebeach.com. They also let me use pictures for my YouTube videos, so I'm a big Pokebeach.com fan. As a side note, I did talk about their new layout, and yeah, I like a lot about their new layout. You can just go and look at every set from the trading card game, and you can even just search for cards, and if you search, say, Sableye, you'll get all the Sableye cards come out. It's annoyingly good. I'm still not 100% used to it, but it is a better layout than it was before. Pains me to say so because I like the old layout, but yeah, big fan of Pokebeach. So, but the point being, no guarantee whatsoever that there is going to be, that these are going to be correct. They usually are, but no guarantee. So there's an Entei, it's got Omega Double, that's pretty cool. Remember, of course, with Lucky Helmet, what I was going to say, it's guaranteed. You have to draw the 2 cards. So you can actually attack your opponent into decking out, Because remember, you don't deck out when you run out of cards. You deck out when at the beginning of your opponent's turn, at the beginning of your turn, you're unable to draw a card. So if you attack them and they draw the last card of their deck, they then deck out because they can't draw a card at the beginning of their turn. That's kind of cool. As for the Entei, for a fire and a colourless, it does 30 damage and reduces any damage done during the next turn by 30. And for 2 fire, 2 colourless, it does heat tackle for 130 damage. Flip a coin, if tails, it does 30 damage to itself. Meh. It's not great. It's not bad. It's not great. It's a fun little card, and if you were to put 2 silver bangles, now they're probably going to rotate, but maybe an expanded you could do. If you put 2 silver bangles on that, it's 190 for 4 energy, which still isn't amazing, but it's alright. Like I say, it's not a card I'm in love with, but it's kind of cool. There's some good stuff there. And the final 2 cards, there are a lot of new cards. Bad energy. Now, I was informed by somebody who knows more about Japanese than I that bad, it doesn't have the same connotations. They suggested it will probably be something like evil energy when it gets translated into English. And it's another special energy which just doesn't have a good enough effect to make it vulnerable to your Xerasic, your Enhanced Hammer, etc. Special energies are much easier to get rid of than basic energies. Basic energy, you've got Crushing Hammer or Flare Grunt if they're active. That's your basic energy. Special energy, you've got all of that, plus Enhanced Hammer or Xerasic active or on the bench. It's not quite good enough. It's essentially a dark energy, again, like Herbal Energy and Mystery Energy and all of that, Strong Energy. It can only be attached to a dark Pokemon, and if it's attached to anything else, you discard it. But it's Rocky Helmet. So they attack, and they get 20 damage. If they attack you, if they're an EX, you put 2 damage counters on them. So it works like a Rocky Helmet, but it only works on EXs, and it can only be attached to a dark Pokemon. For those wondering, can this stack? Well, Strong Energy stacks, and there's nothing written on the card, according to the current translation, which would suggest it doesn't. So in theory, you put 4 bad energy on there, they attack you, and take 80 damage back. Heck, stick a Rocky Helmet on there, they attack you, they take 100 damage back. Now, I don't honestly think people are going to want to put them on there, but that's, it's there. The other thing is, of course, that because it's only a dark energy when it's attached to a dark Pokemon, you can't use it. You can't use it with Evil Tail's Oblivion Wing. So, yeah, it's not great. You can't. For those who've forgotten, that's Evil Tail's first attack. It does 30 damage and attaches a dark from your discard pile to one of your dark Pokemon. So, yeah, I don't think it's going to see a lot of play. It's like so many of these cards that it's like Mystery Energy. In theory, reducing the retreat cost is good, but it doesn't do enough to warrant making yourself more vulnerable. And the final new card this week, because I'm aware it's 24 minutes in, not only have we not finished the news, but we haven't even got to the biggest news of the week yet. Sableye. And this Sableye is kind of interesting. I like this Sableye because it adds consistency, and consistency is a good thing. Now, it's got 1 bad attack, but it's got a good attack for 1 dark energy, no resistance, no weakness, which Sableye's had in the past. Captivating Eye. Choose a supporter card in your opponent's discard pile and use its effect as the effect of this attack. That's kind of cool. Now, there was a Pokemon, it was from the Diamond and Pearl block. For the life of me, I can't remember which set it was in. I'll have to try and remember that in a minute. And I believe it allowed you to get a supporter from your deck. Now, this one's from your opponent's discard pile. It just adds consistency. Your opponent uses Juniper, you've got nothing, Sableye 1 dark energy, boom, Juniper. If this was for a colourless energy, this would just be an amazing Pokemon to put a 1 of in decks. As it is, it's still amazing for a dark deck to put 1 of in. I don't think it's going to be with the Dark Energy, I don't think it's going to be good enough that it's going to be played all that much, but I think it's good in Dark decks. Some people are suggesting this is the reason why Lysandre's trump card was banned, because as soon as that Lysandre's trump card hits your opponent's discard pile, it stays there unless they VS Seeker it back. So you can just trump card more. I don't agree with that, I really don't. Now, there is some evidence for this, because trump card is banned in Japan as of the day Bandit Ring comes out. But honestly, I think the problems with Lysandre's trump card outweigh this a little bit. So yeah, that, ladies and gentlemen, is the news for this week. Except it's not the news for this week, because we have a very large piece of news. And that is that Lysandre's trump card has been banned. So a couple days ago, there was a picture linked from a Japanese website, and essentially it suggested that, well, it didn't suggest, it said that Lysandre's trump card was going to be banned in Japan as of June the 20th, which is when the new set comes out, which immediately started speculation. I suggested that it probably was going to lead to a ban in the US. Most people thought it wouldn't. I didn't have much evidence to go on other than it's very early since the card came out to ban it. And then a couple hours later, it was confirmed as banned in the UK. Now, according to Pokemon's official website, they've actually done a post about this, and they have actually they've actually given some reasons, which I quite like. They've actually gone into a bit of detail, and they've explained why it's banned, which I think I appreciate that. I like the fact that rather than just banning it, they're listening, and they clearly are listening. Now, just to be clear, I did a video about this on Monday when it was banned, so I encourage you to go back and have a look at that, because I'm not going to repeat everything that I said there here. But I did a first take video. It's a new kind of video I did on my YouTube channel, and I've got a custom URL now. So you can just go to youtube.com/PTCG radio, and it will take you right there, which makes me really happy. Far more happy than it probably should. And I did a hot takes video. First one of this I've ever done. I might start doing these in future. Big piece of news comes out, I'll do, and I'm going to be honest with you, it's a narrated PowerPoint, but I think it's pretty good, and the feedback has been exceptional. People really dug it. Got, I think, 700 views in the first 12 hours. It was crazy. So yeah, I very much encourage you to go and look at that video, and I might do more in the future if more news comes out to that effect. Here's what Pokemon said. They gave 4 reasons why it's banned. It eliminates one of your opponent's victory conditions, running out of cards in your deck. Like I said, if you can't draw a card at the beginning of your turn, you lose. Lysandre's trump card plus VS Seeker means that can never happen. It allows repeated use of powerful trainer cards. We saw this with Seismitoad dominating UK Nationals this past weekend. You could theoretically play 4 Crushing Hammer in one turn, 4 Super Scoop Up in one turn, and then trump card and do it all again next turn. It's stupid. It allows drawing through your deck quickly with minimal repercussions. Now, Pokemon.com didn't make as big a deal about this as I think they could have done, but quite frankly, this is a problem. Because it removes skill. What part of the skill of Pokemon has always been using your resources properly. Saving your laser to get the KOs you need. You're playing Seismitoad, you're against Hawlucha, you've got 4 lasers. You need to save your lasers and your Verbank, because a Quaking Punch of a Muscle Band, a laser, and a Verbank City on the field does 80 damage and 1-hit KOs a Hawlucha. Unless you've got the Muscle Band and the Verbank City Gym and the laser, you don't 1-hit KO the Hawlucha, and they get another shot at you. And Hawlucha 2-hit KOs EXs. But with trump cards, you can just play the lasers as and when. You literally just play the lasers whenever you get them, because you're going to trump them back in. And this means that people are going to have to think more about their playing choices. Do I put this energy down now? You know, for instance, one misplay I see, and I made a big point of this on the national stream this past weekend. One misplay I see from people over and over again. They're against a deck like Seismitoad or Executor or Trevenant that they know is playing Enhanced Hammer. They know it's going to be, or Crushing Hammer. And they go first and they just put a DCE down. And they're only playing 4 in their deck in a Seismitoad deck. So they go first, they put a DCE down, and every time my response is, well, that's not going to last till the end of their opponent's turn, and 99% of the time it doesn't. That is a misplay, and it should be punished by, brilliant, good job, now you've only got 3 of them left. Trump card gets it back. It removes skill, so I'm all in favour of this ban. And it extends the time of battles. Not only that, but it extends turns. No one wants a 10-minute turn where your opponent's sitting there drawing everything. I'm hugely in favour of this ban. I think it's a really, really good thing. Now, if you go and have a look at that YouTube video, I went through reasons why I thought it should be banned, and I went through reasons why I thought it shouldn't be banned. But overall, I thought it really should. One thing which I think is really... there's a couple repercussions which I want to mention here. Again, in terms of individual decks, let's look at these as we go forward. As somebody pointed out in the YouTube comments for that video, last week I gave a list of decks to play for Nationals. And somebody asked, are you going to redo your list? Absolutely. US Nationals is coming up after the ban, which in the US, UK, etc. is June the 15th. And when that happens, I will be... or just before, I'm going to give you my new list of what to play for Nationals like I did this past week. So yes, I'm going to redo that list. So I'm going to save discussion of Night March is better, Donphan is better, Seismitoad is worse. Let's deal with all of that in a week or two's time. And please, go watch that YouTube video. It does explain a lot more than I'm going to go through now. But 2 things which I really think this shows. Number 1, Pokemon are listening. And I like that. And we know they're listening. You know, if you want some evidence, Tropical Beach came out, was too good, so they reprinted it a second year. Pokemon Catcher was too good, they errated it. And you look at the tin Pokemon they've given us. Mewtwo, Darkrai, Yveltal, Deoxys, Thundurus, Lugia. When all these good Pokemon come out, they reappear as tin Pokemon. About the only ones that never did were Virizion, Genesect, and Black Kyurem EX. They're the only really good EX that didn't get printed in tins. Pokemon are clearly listening. The other thing, and this doesn't make me quite so happy, Pokemon have not banned cards. There were 2 banned cards, Sneasel and Slowking. They were banned back when Wizards of the Coast was running the game, not Pokemon. Pokemon have never banned cards before. Is this going to be the start of a trend? And the problem with banned cards is people run out and buy full art versions and all of that, spend lots of money getting them, and then they get banned, and it's a problem. So it does make me worry for the future. Now, one small correction I must make to the YouTube video. When I talked about the 2 banned cards, I talked about Slowking. Now, I said that it had been mistranslated in the UK and US, and I was correct, but I was wrong about how. So essentially, Slowking came out in Japan, and it was a bad card. Bad attacker, easily KO'd, but it had an ability, if it was in the active and your opponent played a trainer card, flip a coin, if heads, that trainer card does nothing. So you can give your opponent a 50-50 chance of not being able to use any trainer card. And this was back when the terminology was such that everything was a trainer. Tools, stadiums, items, supporters, all of them were trainers. So any of those you'd have to flip a coin. But Slowking sucked. So no one's going to play that card. And it could never stack because it had to be in the active to use it. Mistranslated when it came over to the UK. Another reason we can't always trust Japanese translations. Sometimes the translation's right, but it changes when it comes over here. Often due to a mistake. Well, it doesn't happen often. When it does, it's due to a mistake. And Slowking didn't have to be active to use it. And that meant that you could pop it on the bench and your opponent flips a coin for every trainer, supporter, item, tool, stadium. And if tails, it doesn't do anything. Okay. But because it didn't have to be active, well, because it was active in Japan, they never said it couldn't stack because you never needed to. But then when it was printed in English, it did stack. So you could put 4 Slowking on the bench, and every trainer card your opponent played had a 1 in 16 chance. You had to hit 1 out of 4 heads. It's a 1 in 16 chance. That's not good. Excuse me, I had to hit 4 out of 4 heads. If even one of them was tails... Sorry, you were flipping if you flipped even 1 heads. they didn't get to use it. And that was crazy. It was overly powered. Simple as that. They just errated it and unbanned it when Pokemon took over. So, interesting things there. Now, one thing that people... Oh, and something I didn't say on the video. I'm really loving Bunnelby. I know it's probably not very good. It's got the double attack ancient trait, and it's got an attack for 1 energy, which allows you to discard a top card of your opponent's deck. If you can use Bunnelby for 3 turns, plus put 4 Trick Shovels in your deck, that's 10 cards you're discarding from your opponent's deck. And you don't even have to get them to deck out. You start discarding DCEs from Seismitoad decks, or Primal Groudons from a Primal Groudon deck, and the game's getting pretty fun pretty quickly. But something was missed amongst all this excitement. If you look at the Japanese website, then you will notice, and you have to get it translated, but it refers to the official tournaments, and it refers to Black and White series and later, and it refers to X and Y series and later. Now, this could mean a couple of things. At the moment, Japan are Black and White on. It could mean that Japan is going to go into... It could mean that Japan is going to be going into X and Y on, and they're getting prepared for that. Or it could mean that we are going to X and Y on. And we don't know, is the honest answer. But this really seems to suggest Pokemon are thinking X, Y on. Now, I've been worried about going into this whole debate about the rotation, because loads of people last year were going Plasma on. And it turned out to be boundaries crossed on. And everyone was making deck lists without computer search, without Skylar, and then they were still in the format. I talked about this last week or the week before. But we've now got an official document from Pokemon, admittedly in Japan, where the format is different. They're currently playing Black and White on. But they're clearly preparing for an X and Y on format. Maybe it's just in Japan. But it really does... I mean, X and Y on is... Everyone's been guessing, and it's the obvious guess. In the same way Plasmon was the obvious guess last year and everyone got it wrong. I wouldn't be terribly surprised to see Legendary Treasures on. But I really think it probably is at this stage, especially if it's going to be X and Y on. And this is news that seems to have gotten lost in all the huffle about Trump Card being banned. I think we could very well... I think this could be the kind of early confirmation of X and Y onwards. So, something to bear in mind. So, after lots of exciting new cards, and the fact that Trump Card's banned, and potential early confirmation of an X and Y on rotation, not actual confirmation, but certainly a pretty gosh darn big hint, I can finally tell you about my adventures at UK Nats this past weekend. And it was wonderful. I had an absolute whale of a time. Now, the one sad thing is I didn't play, and it made me sad. Now, they essentially had me in a little room commentating, because I have a loud voice, and they didn't want to hear me. So I got locked in a little room, and I came out, I went in there at the start of the round when they were setting up, and I came out after the round, as soon as I'd recorded the game and done a quick interview with both players, I came out again. So I was only in the room when I was recording, and other than that, I was running around, I caught up with everyone, and it was genuinely brilliant to see everyone and catch up with everyone. But there was a little bit of a pang. Every time someone said, "Oh, I couldn't do that, I couldn't give up playing Nats," it did make me a little bit sad. Or like when I saw, two good friends of mine make the final, it was very upsetting just having to watch. Well, upsetting might be a bit strong, but seeing my friends in the final and knowing that I didn't even get a chance. But honestly, I'm very, very glad that I did the commentating. It was absolutely brilliant. So, firstly, huge shout out to Terry Goodacre, an absolutely wonderful chap. He's the kind of unsung hero, and I've mentioned him a few times. He's the one that does the last couple of tournaments I've put up on my YouTube channel. It's him and Matt Blower that have sorted out the recording for that. But Terry sorted out Nationals. I think he went and spent hundreds of pounds a day before Nationals getting up a new computer so that he could sort it all out at Nationals. He got all the tech sorted, he fixed all the problems, he showed me how to use it all. Basically, Terry made it so I could just walk in, sit down and talk. And there was a couple of buttons to choose what screen was showing and mute the microphone and enter the names of the people. It really was that simple. So just a huge shout out to Terry for all the work that he did over the weekend. I'm really, really appreciative. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have been able to commentate. And of course, Gordy Not Games for letting me do it and giving me 2 boxes of cards as payment for commentating Pokemon Nationals. Which, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably guessed, I kind of like talking about Pokemon. It's not something I need to be given encouragement to do. So we got up there on the Saturday and there were a couple of little plastic chairs, so we got rid of them. There was a sofa at the back of the room. We dragged that up, and Saturday was awesome but hard going because there were 8 50-minute rounds and it was just me. And I sat there and I talked and I enjoyed it and I think it was good and I got a lot of good feedback and I think I did a good job. But come the last few rounds, my voice was hurting and it was wearing a little bit. What was really cool was they let me choose the feature matches. So every round, I got to choose what game was going up. I got to choose people that I liked, or more importantly, people I knew were good players. I got some new players on I'd never seen play before, specifically for that reason, people that were doing well. I got some interesting decks on. If I heard of someone playing an interesting deck, then I went and made sure that I got that up on the stream. And it was really good. And one thing that was also brilliant, everyone on the stream, for 7 of the rounds out of the 8, as soon as the game was over, both players came down, sat on my sofa with me, and we did a little bit of an interview between rounds, which was really, really awesome. I really, really enjoyed that. There was one round where we only got Adam Hawkins, purely because his opponent had to go and have a deck check, so he couldn't come and join us. But other than that, everyone came and sat down. Even after, the top 8 game we did, the Masters final, it was really, really good. Didn't do interviews with the juniors and seniors finals for fairly obvious reasons. So, everyone helped out. Everyone I asked to be on stream went on stream without any complaining. Everyone came back and did a little bit of an interview at the end and came and had a chat with me. We had, over 200 people pretty much the whole time watching the stream, so it was popular. I got a lot of good feedback. It was just a huge amount of fun. Then on day 2, we recorded one top 8 Masters match, and then we did Juniors final, Seniors final, Masters final. And that day, because there were less people, it was less crowded, there were less players, etc., I did things a little bit different. I was used to the tech at that point, so I set up the microphone a little bit differently, and I got some friends in. And I got Nick Pierce, Tom Hall and Jake Wolven in for 1 round each. And then I had Tom Hall back for the Masters final because he really did an exceptional job in the Seniors final. Nick and Jake were absolutely brilliant as well, I should point out. And literally, we managed to set up the microphone, so we relaxed on the sofa and chatted about Pokemon. And you'll see all these videos on my YouTube channel, by the way. And you can see, I think that the day 2 stuff, I think, was really, really good. I loved having someone to bounce off. And hopefully we'll do this again at regionals next year. Nationals. There is talk of doing it at a couple of UK regionals, both streaming and then recording for my YouTube channel at the same time. So hopefully we'll be able to get that rolling. But, huge thanks to everyone who helped out. The only bad thing, and there was literally only one thing I didn't like the whole weekend, and that was I couldn't have everyone. I really wanted Tommy Roberts to be on the stream. I wanted him to get a game. I wanted Freddie K to get a game. I would have loved to get one of the boys from Omnipoke on to do a game. And there were other people that I would love to get on. I could easily have filled the 12 rounds of a different person every round. So, and there are a couple people that did ask to be on. They did have to let down. And I felt bad. So, to any of those people listening, I do apologise. It's nothing personal. I basically had 3 spots of people to use. And for the Masters final, I wanted to use someone who had taken up one of the earlier spots. So, yeah, my apologies. That was the only souring experience. I hated telling people I couldn't use them for the stream when they clearly wanted to do it, because I had a real blast doing it. It was awesome. But hopefully next year we'll be able to sort things a bit better. So that was my Nats. If you didn't want to listen to that, well, I'm sorry, it's happened now. If you want to watch the games, now, I think 2 of the rounds might have been lost due to a technical problem. But the rest of the games, Terry is sending me over the footage. I'm going to cut them up, make sure they're all appropriate, and they're going to go straight up on my YouTube channel as they went out from Nationals. And I will put a little intro on all of them explaining this, but you must bear in mind that the commentary is a little bit different to when I do it at home. When I do it at home, I know what's going on. I usually know how the game's going to turn out. I know of any big judging calls that have happened, because I was there at the tournament and I heard about them. Whereas with the stream, I'm explaining a bit about the stream and, occasionally I'm turning around to, get an opinion from someone who's sitting around from me. So it's a little bit different, but I still think it's awesome and I highly encourage you to check them out. Hopefully, I'm going to be able to start putting them up on my YouTube channel this week. So check them out. Speaking of my YouTube channel, while we're here, quick shameless plug. My YouTube channel, we had the Roaring Skies tournament, the Doncaster Winner Box, is now up in its entirety. All 5 rounds, plus top 8, plus top 4, plus the final. They are all up there. Go check them out. My top 10 cards from Roaring Skies will finally be going up. It's going to go up Thursday or Friday this week. It's going to go up Thursday or Friday. So you're going to be getting that very, very soon. And then, let me know. Tweet me at the Wassy. Email me at ptcgradio@hotmail.co.uk. At the moment, I'm focusing on commentated games because there's loads of people doing interviews and deck breakdowns, and they're doing a good job. I watch a lot of these myself. I enjoy these videos. I love Pokemon, you might have guessed. But there aren't that many people doing, fairly high-level, fully commentated games. So for that reason, that's what I'm trying to focus on. Now, Terry and Matt have also provided me with 2 full league challenges. Now, they were pre-Roaring Skies. So essentially, I've put them in the archive. I haven't got time to do them yet. I'm going to get Nationals out. But after Nationals, I've got 2 full league challenges. I think probably about 4 or 5 games for each. So they're going to go up on my channel. And yeah, they'll be a little bit out of date, but I'm going to enjoy commentating them and hopefully you'll enjoy listening. But if you've got any feedback about my YouTube channel, what you want me to do, chuck us an email or a tweet. So, in terms of UK Nationals itself, now we had 130 players and we went down to a top 8. So, the top 8 seeds after Swiss from 8 to 1 went. We had Josh Poet Pierce playing a really weird Virizion Genesect list with Seismitoad. The basic theory of which was, I'm going to block you with Seismitoad while I build up the Virizion, against Seismitoad this is, because Seismitoad's just hammer energies too much. If you combine Headringer and Crushing Hammer, Seismitoad now has, or at least with Trump card, had a positive matchup against Virgin, which is ridiculous. So, what you would do is you would stick up the Seismitoad, you would use Quaking Punch so they couldn't hammer and Headringer, you'd set up a Virizion, and then you'd hit them with Virizion, Emerald Slash onto a second Virizion, and just keep swapping Virizion to Virizion, and that's essentially what it would do. For other games, you could just play it like Virizion Genesect. In 7th place, we had Jake Wolvin playing Seismitoad. In 6th place, we had Oliver Fennelly playing Seismitoad. In 5th place, we had Sam Taylor playing Primal Groudon, but he had an interesting tech, Stephen, not Stephen's Advice, as I called it on the stream. And Stephen is a very interesting card that lets you search for a supporter and an energy. Now, you'll notice when I went through this on the podcast, I was not terribly complimentary about Stephen. I didn't think it was a very good card. But essentially, you can stream it like you would Cyrus's Conspiracy. I'm pretty sure it's Conspiracy back in the day, whereby you would get an energy and a Stephen, and then the next turn you'd get an energy, and if you played a third, you could get another Stephen. It's a way to stream energy against Seismitoad, because as soon as you get a Primal Groudon against Seismitoad, you win the game. If they've got a Muscle Band, they're 5-hit KOing, and they can't use Laser or get rid of your energy, and you're 1-hit KOing as long as you can keep drawing into stadiums. In 4th place, we had Jamie Serhan playing Trevenant. In 3rd place, we had Michael Cornwall playing Landorus Bats, which, now I owe Michael an apology. I did not list this as one of the decks to watch for Nationals last week. I wasn't taking it seriously. He took it to top 8 of Nationals, so yeah. In 2nd place, we had Carl Blake playing Trevenant. And the first seed at the end of Swiss, we had Alex Dow playing Seismitoad. Now, when we went into the top 8, Josh Poet Pierce lost the Virizion Genesect, lost to Alex Dow's Seismitoad. Jake Wolvin Seismitoad lost to Carl Blake's Trevenant. Oliver Fennelly Seismitoad beat Michael Cornwall's Landorus Bats. And Jamie Serhan's Trevenant beat Sam Taylor's Groudon. And I spoke to Sam after the game, and he basically said, I lost one game on luck, I won the other one, and then I lost the series because he took a prize lead in Game 3, despite the fact I would have won in an untimed game. And I think this is a problem with Groudon that we have to actually appreciate, because Groudon ain't going away anywhere. Groudon's going to be big next format, even with all the grass stuff coming out. One of the things you've got to watch about Groudon, I'm sorry to use this as an example, Sam, but the only Groudon player that made top 8, and with Steven in your deck. So I'm nothing against Sam here at all. You win when you set up Primal Groudon. You hemorrhage prizes until that happens. So maybe, it's a reason maybe not to play Groudon going forward. Although it's still a hell of a deck. Going into the top 4, we had Seismitoad Trevenant again, and we had Seismitoad Trevenant. And Alex Dow's Seismitoad beat Jamie Serhan's Trevenant, and Ollie Fenley's Seismitoad beat Carl Blake's Trevenant, to set up an all Seismitoad final, which backs up why they had to get rid of Lysandre's trump card. Seismitoad was dominant this weekend. It was absolutely dominant. Now, you'll be pleased to know that the videos, the games that I chose for the stream, we got some Toads on there, but we didn't just get Toads. I made sure we had a healthy stream of non-Toad decks going on as well. And it was just stupid. The fact that you can play Crushing Hammer, Enhanced Hammer, Super Scoop Up, etc., then you can just trump it all back in and do it all again was just ridiculous. And it didn't ruin Nationals. Nationals was awesome. It was a good tournament, but it certainly, I'm glad they banned Trump Card. I was not looking forward to that all through US, because I'm going to watch US Nationals, and I'm going to watch Worlds. I'm not going, unfortunately. And I did not want to sit there watching Seismitoad all day. And if you watched the Madison regional stream that went on Saturday as well, I'd hope that you all watched the UK National stream and switched over to Madison in the breaks. But if you watched the Madison stream, which I got home on Sunday after 2 days of commentating Pokemon, and the very first thing I did was switch on the US stream and start opening packs. There was another game, we saw Jason Klaczynski's Seismitoad deck, and it was just the same thing over again. It was kind of annoying. Now, in the final, we had a weird situation in that Ollie and Alex are best friends, and they've been friends since they were 11. They are incredibly good friends. Essentially, imagine reaching the final against your best mate at Nationals. That's what happened to them. And they are both superbly lovely chaps, and they really deserve it. Ollie could be seen on a recent couple episodes of Coach Trip, the Channel 4 programme. So anyone in the UK, check it out on 4OD. I'm told the episodes aren't up there now, but will be in the near future. Just a little plug there for Ollie. It was quite good. People were holding up Coach Trip Ollie signs while he was playing. It amused me. You're actually going to see one of them on the stream when it goes up on YouTube. So when it got to the final, Alex won both games and then scooped to Ollie. So Ollie lost in the final, but is officially the UK national champion. And just to be clear, the reason is Alex was on for top 22 before nationals. Reaching the final basically guaranteed him top 22 in Europe, because essentially if you're in top 22 before nationals, the only way you can be passed is if loads of people top cut nationals who were close to you and you don't. Well, he made the final of nationals, so he's got top 22. So Alex knew that he had a paid invite. So remember, the top 22 in Europe get a paid invite to nationals. So Alex knew that he had a paid invite to anyway. The only person who got a paid invite at UK Nationals was the winner. Now, last I heard that was unconfirmed, but I believe it was Germany, France and England was supposed to be the only nationals, or Britain I should say, was supposed to be the only nationals that gave a free trip to the winner, and France and Germany have, so it sounds pretty likely. So by scooping, Ollie gets a paid trip, and Alex gets a paid trip. Whereas if Alex wins, Alex essentially gets a paid trip and Ollie doesn't. I'm pretty sure we can all agree in that situation we'd have scooped to our best mate as well. Now, just to be clear, it's perfectly legal. Had Alex gotten something in return, had it been, I'll scoop, but I want you to give me both of your boxes, or I'll scoop, but I want you to pay me 500 quid towards it, then you're talking collusion, then you can be banned from the game. But there's nothing to stop you scooping to your mate if you want to. As long as they're not kind of coercing you or bribing you into it, it's absolutely fine. But it did create a little bit of confusion on the stream, because we did an interview with Alex and Ollie after the final. They came and joined me on the sofa just because they were national champions. Doesn't mean that they were, doesn't mean they were too big to come and sit on the sofa with us. And they explained it all. Now, I know a bunch of people turned off the stream, and I know that 'cause I can see the viewing numbers at all times, before the interview. So it was a bit confusing. I got a couple of tweets and messages from people going, I've just gone on Pokemon.com, and they listed Oliver Fenley as UK national champion, but we watched him lose on the stream. Yeah, quite frankly. That's what went down. So, UK Nationals, what did we learn? Seismitoad's ridiculous. It's utterly, utterly ridiculous with Trump Card, and it needs to be banned. Now, to be fair, it was only going to be ridiculous for Nationals and Worlds, because time you take out Laser and bring in all the graph stuff, maybe straight afterwards it wasn't going to be that great anymore. But it's all a moot point, quite frankly, because that's not what happened. So, gutted. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was UK Nationals. Except it's not the whole story, because you can get the whole story on my YouTube channel. And I know I'm plugging my YouTube channel a lot at the moment, but I'm putting an awful lot of time and effort into my YouTube channel, and I'm doing that, you know, providing content that I think people are going to like. So the way I see it, if you're listening to this, you should be checking out my YouTube channel. Even if you're checking out my YouTube channel, giving you a rundown of what's on there and what's coming up is probably at least not entirely unwelcomed. So check that out over the next week or two. You should get all of those games, bar a couple that were lost for technical problems. But one of them I look like a moron by pointing out the wrong end of time rules. So, yeah. Actually, while we're here, let's talk about that very, very quickly. We had a game. It was between Ollie Fenley, the official national champion, and my good friend Tommy Roberts, and they took 5 prizes between them. At the end of the +3 turns, Tommy was ahead on prizes, and I announced him as the winner, which was wrong of me. I really should have known better. The rule essentially is this. In Top Cut, you must take more than 4 prizes for a game to count. So if you win Game 1, and then in Game 2 your opponent has taken 3 prizes and is ahead, Game 2 doesn't count, you are the winner. The exception to the you must have taken more than 50% of your prizes is where it is tied. So if you win 1 game each and time is called where one person's up 2 prizes to 1, and then that's the way it is after 3 turns, although Game 3 you haven't taken more than 50% of your prizes, well, you're 1 game each, so Game 3 becomes a decider despite the fact someone hasn't taken 50% of their prizes. That's not the way it goes in Swiss. In Swiss, it is very simply, if someone has taken all of their prizes and won the game, it counts. Otherwise, the game does not count. And that means that if neither player has taken all 6 prizes, no games have ended, no games count, and it goes down as a draw. So one of the games which we've lost was that one, and I'm not too upset about that. The other one we lost was a Crawdaunt Mirror, which I don't think anyone's going to be too sad. It was quite a fun game, so if it does go up, do check it out. Other than that, you'll see all these on my YouTube channel. I'm going to do little intros and all of that, explaining a few things, and I'm going to make sure to cut it to a reasonable length. Do make sure that you give me a bit of a pass in the commentary. It's live stream commentary. It's going to be different and a little bit less fluid when you're watching it back on YouTube than the commentary I've been doing for the other tournaments lately. So check all that out. Next week we're going to be back. What I want to do next week is talk about this new grass stadium and all the grass Pokemon that can take advantage of it. But you never know what's going to happen between now and next week. There's going to be more YouTube videos going up this week, so check them out. Tweet me at the Wossy, email me at ptcgradio@hotmail.co.uk. But more importantly, look after yourselves. Oh, very quick, shameless, narcissistic plug. I've now called the UK Nats winner 4 years in a row. Boom. And I did say last week that I'm picking Seismitoad, although I wasn't that sure. Yeah, I really should have been more sure. You only had to get halfway through day 1 to realise what was going to happen. So yeah, look after yourselves till next week, ladies and gentlemen. Have a lovely time. Check out my YouTube channel. My name's Ross, and you've been listening to PTCG Radio.